Welcome back to the eSports Report, guys. Getting all kinds of tweets here on the Microsoft Surface. Keep them coming in. Monday, that's today. We're kicking off the MLG COD League Season 3. And, of course, this COD League will last for several months. $50,000 announced so far for the online play. And the matches are getting started at 7 p.m. Eastern. Before we get to the matches, we got to talk about the teams that'll be playing in them. As you guys know, all of the teams that played in the international playoffs at Anaheim were invited back. We had some interesting moves made as some teams were acquired, new brands were brought in, and we also saw 4 new teams advance out of the Anaheim Season 3 play-in tournament. Each squad was able to start with 4 players and then add on 4 additional substitutes who can fill in at any time throughout the online league. So, Friday, we had the draft. I flew home from vacation early to be here for an epic evening, and here's basically the results we had. Bringing on a very special guest to discuss every single move. I got my buddy Revan with me today. Revan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very good, Puckett. Thanks for bringing me on the show today. So let's get right down into it. We're going to be talking draft picks. So unfortunately, I wasn't drafted this time around.
Yeah, what happened
I'm
there?
still a little bit upset. I was talking with Caleb, who manages the Curse team now. He assured me that I was going to be drafted, but that didn't happen.
Come on, Caleb.
I'm a little upset.
I would be too, but it looks like Curse had some interesting picks. Revan, I want to get your thoughts on a lot of these moves as we go through team by team to announce the draft picks. Here you can see the round 1. Justice was able to get the first pick based on their placement in Anaheim. It went to Elevate second, Rise Nation third, and then our Season 3 Open Bracket Champions, Optic Nation, went at number 4. Then we saw basically Radius serve as Phase Red, as they are the new team in the league. But kicking things off, we saw Modi go to Justice with the first pick officially in round 1. Attach as well as Slacked did go in the prior round, as we had some bonus picks for both of those squads. But Modi, Think2, Bumzo, and Assassin start things off for us for Justice, as those are their 4-round picks. What did you think about Justice's moves? What did they need, and did they get it in this draft?
I think they have some really solid picks. You know, you have Assassin, who's kind of going to be the X factor of all of their subs that they got. We've seen that he is a very talented player, but as you guys were talking about him on the draft, does he still have it? It's been a while since we've seen him competing, but he could potentially have been their best pick. Now, also, you got to look at Think2. Every time I've seen Think2 plan an event, he's gone big. So I think they're going to be using Think2, maybe Bumzo, who's their Search and Destroy All-Star. I think those are going to be their 2 main picks. I was actually kind of surprised that they went after Modi first. I think if I was on that team, the first player I'm going to go after in this draft is going to be Fizzer. Not only does he bring you that S&D playmaking skills, but what he's shown us at the X Games is that he can hang in the respawns pretty well. So they're decided to go with Modi. We'll see if they decide to use him, but what Modi brings to the table is just aggressive SMG play. That's what he's done all his life. So let's say if Twiz, Dowd, or even Sin, he can't really fill in for Blindfire, but Modi could fill in for the other 3 guys. I think Justice have a pretty solid sub lineup, but how does it compare to the other teams? I don't think it's as good.
All right, so Justice, if you were giving them an A through an F, Rev, what's your honest answer here on how did Justice pick?
I'm going to give them a solid B-. I think they have a solid sub lineup, but it just doesn't match up to what I see from some of the other teams.
All right, well, let's take a look now at Elevate. Of course, this is the squad that came through the play-in tournament. Gucci and Chino playing together once again. Mad Cat from the UK playing with this team, as well as Nifty, the young up-and-coming player. So Mad Cat, he's had some news this week, Revan, and a little bit later in the show we'll talk to him about his move over to North America. But Elevate, they knew that some of these players would need to be filled in as people were on vacation. Also potential controller issues, it sounds, and already Elevate plans to use their substitutes. In tonight's match, we got Miyagi, Pluto, Jump, and Slasher picked up in the draft. How did Elevate do? Because in my book, I had them at a pretty nice A, if not A-.
Yeah, definitely. You got to give him an A. I mean, they have a really stacked sub lineup. They have Miyagi, who could do all sorts of crazy things. He's a very aggressive SMG Slayer. You got Pluto. He could fill in with the objective role. If their objective guy goes down, you got Jump. He's their search and destroy all-star, and that's kind of the theme you'll see with a lot of these teams. They went after the online search and destroy players, and then you got Slash and round things out. I honestly feel like you can make these 4 subs team together, and they'd still be a very solid squad. Who do I think they're going to use the most? I think probably someone like Miyagi and Jump. Miyagi, he's got really great internet, and then Jump for the search and destroy stuff. So Elevate definitely got to give them an A for their drafts.
All right, so Elevate already talking about using possibly even 2 players from that sub lineup in their starting teams tonight. If you're playing and you have Madcap playing as well as Chino, who do you pick up to fill in the other 2 spots? Do you go for an overall with Miyagi and Slasher? Do you put Pluto in there and Jump for S&D only? What would be your strategy as the captain?
Well, Chino and Madcat are both natural assault rifle players, so automatically I'm going to go with Miyagi and Pluto. You need that aggressive SMG and Miyagi that can also pick up kills. And then you also need another objective player, which is going to be Pluto. You know, he's solely the OJ guy. So I think Elevate, they should use Miyagi and Pluto, but we'll see. You might even throw Jump in there for some of the search and destroys.
All right, so solid A to Elevate and Revan's draft grades. Let's keep it going. Rise Nation is our next squad, and Rise Nation, they qualified with Saint, but already making moves for them. They knew they were going to get a bonus pick. They got attached before round 1 even started. DJ Howie came up in round number 2. Cosmo, Accuracy, and Shills added as well throughout rounds 2 through 4. Let's take a look, though. Looney, Wheats, Pac-Man, and Attached. First off, how strong is this starting lineup?
You know, it's very strong. If you thought they were good with Saint, I think they're going to be even better with Attached. So, Attached, he's been number 1 KD in the league multiple times. I think for the first 2 seasons, he finished within the top 5. So, obviously, he brings talent in the online play, but also in LAN as well. He's played with Miyagi for a numerous amount of events, and we've seen him when he was on the Elevate squad, they performed really well. So, now that he's on Rise, he has a lot of veterans behind him. So, he's going to learn a lot from being on the squad. If they're just able to calm him down, because he is a bit of a young player, if they're able to just keep his head in the game, I think he's going to do just fine on this team. And their sub lineup is really nasty. I mean, you have TJ Holly, and then you could go to the objective comp for Shills. You got Cosmo, who he kind of a hit or miss, but when he's hot, he's going to do a lot of damage in game. And then you have Accuracy. I had a chance to talk to him over at E3. He's a very talented player as well.
So overall draft pick grade, as we see Attach and TJ picked up right away. How'd they do with the other 3 picks?
I'll give them a B plus for this one. The plus comes from TJ Holly. He's kind of a jack of all trades. You could put him in for whatever game type. You know he's going to perform. Plus, he's got really good internet behind him, so that always helps. Cosmo, Accuracy, and Shills, these are kind of, some hit or miss players. I think if they're missing Pac-Man, they'll throw in Shills. I think if they're missing someone like Wheats, they'll throw in Cosmo. And then if they're missing Looney, then they'll throw in Accuracy. So they kind of have a sub for each of their starters. All these players kind of match up well with one another.
I like the strategy. Let's move on to our next squad. This is your Season 3 play-in tournament champions, Optic Nation. Everyone was hoping they'd be in Season 2, but the squad was formed just after registration. So Optic Nation comes in. They win that play-in tournament with the same lineup that they struggled at X Games. Miracles, Killa, Embos, and Ricky, the official starters for the team. And in the draft, they surprised a few people with a Fizzr pick in round 1. After that, they went after Trojan, Rizma, and Rex. How did Optic Nation do?
I think they did pretty well. I really feel like Fizzr is a very talented player in this game. He's so good. From what I saw at the X Games, as I was talking a bit about him earlier in the show, he really impressed me. So I think that's a great number 1 pick from Optic Nation. The only thing I feel like they're missing from their subs is kind of, a solid AR player. If they're missing Ricky for one of their matches, they're going to need somebody to step up in that role because it is a very important role to play. I don't really see maybe they could throw in Rizma, but even Rizma nowadays, he's more of the objective type player.
Okay.
Rex is their search and destroy all-star for the team, as well as Fizzr. So, going with Optic Nation, the thing that we know about them is that they're very good at search and destroy, and I'm looking at their subs, and all their subs are good at S&D. I feel like they should have went after more of like a respawn player. I feel like maybe if they're able to get someone like a Flawless early on in the draft, that would have benefited them a lot more.
Flawless was available all the way up until that 4th round. So interesting to see who they went with, especially another S&D player in Rex in that 4th round. So Optic Nation overall, what do you give them here?
I'll give him a B minus. I don't think their sub lineup is as strong as some of the others. I think it might be a little bit weaker than what Justice has, but I like this lineup just for the fact that they have Fizzerb on it. I think Fizz is going to be their #1 sub.
We'll talk a little bit more about Optic Nation and whether or not the new restrictions affected them in last night's 2K. But first, let's keep going with 2 more teams here in the draft. The next one on the roster list is Denial eSports, and this is a completely retooled and rebuilt lineup. The Captain Zuma, the only one returning from the Anaheim squad. He has brought on some very fierce slayers. Saints coming over from FaZe Black. Study picked up after being dropped from Envy, and Replays deciding he no longer wants to be with FaZe was very quick to join Saints, as this is the new Denial starting lineup. Before we get to their draft picks, Revan, how strong is this team in your eyes in their first week on paper?
I think they have the potential to be a very good team, but the one question I'm going to have about them is, are they able to coexist around the map, and are they able to slay together? We saw Zuma, what he was capable of at Anaheim. We know what Saints could do. We know what Study can do. Replays, he's going to be kind of their objective guy. He can slay if needed, but for the most part, he's going to be OBJ. So Study, just speaking a bit about his recent performance, I want to say he's been underperforming a little bit, not really showing what we expect from Study. And I think that had a part to play on why he was released from Envious. Saints, he's always going to be a monster. I mean, he's just going to slay everything in sight. So if Saints goes down, who's going to be the sub to step it up? I don't really know. And then Zuma, I feel like consistency has to be a question for him, since really this has been his first breakout event. How is he going to do from here on out? Is he going to be able to repeat the performance he had at Anaheim? I don't really know, but one thing I can say for certain is that these guys are going to be a very strong search and destroy team.
From what I've seen, they've actually been playing very well in their respawn game mode. Search, they still need some more time to figure out the kinks and just figure out exactly the roles in Search and Destroy. But as you said, a squad with a lot of potential there in the starting lineup. But let's take a look at their draft picks here for their bench. They got Decimate in round 1. Felony grabbed in round 2. J Rich and O Smoked added to the team. It seemed that Zuma was doing a lot of the picks here. What do you know about these 4 players?
Well, they're all really good at Search and Destroy. I've played against J-Rich and Felny a couple times. I don't know too much about Decimate or O-Smoked, but you could clearly see that they had their draft picks kind of centered around Search and Destroy. But what if somebody like Saints can't play in a match? I don't see any of these subs that could step up and replicate what Saints does on the map and pick up the amount of kills that he can. So I think they'll be fine in the Search and Destroy department, but just slaying is going to be a big question for me around these substitutes.
And if you could rank this overall, not knowing too much about this squad, is it a C? Is it worse in your mind? If you were on Denial, what would you do differently?
I definitely wouldn't went after a respawn player, maybe somebody like a Methods or just somebody who's shown that they can hang in the respawn. What grade would I give them? Maybe like a B- or a C+, something around there. Obviously, J-Rich and Felony, they hold a lot of weight to their name, but just in Search and Destroy, it's only 1 game mode out of 3 that you play for variants. So, as I was saying before, these guys, they're going to be fine in Search and Destroy, at least for the subs. I don't know how they're going to perform in the respawn, though.
All right, we'll see what goes down with Denial. Zuma, he was kind of a breakout player. Maybe he knows more than we do at this point when it comes to his bench. Let's go on now to the number 6 team we're going to talk about. This is formerly FaZe Red. Blevins comes in, buys the spot, keeps Classic on the lineup, and now we're going to see the full starting roster here, basically retooled on draft day. Saint was picked up, and then they added Slacked before the first round began. Huddle officially picked up in that first round as they complete their starting lineup. But when it came draft time, a lot of people were kind of interested in the fact that they picked up Spacely in round number 2, bringing 3 of the original 4 members of that Unite Gaming squad that finished second at our first Black Ops 2 event. After that, they go on, pick up Nex, Flawless, and Jerd, as they had quite a few picks after only starting with 2 players on that initial roster.
That Jerd pick is really weird to me. how often is he going to be able to play in matches if he's needed? He's not living in America right now, so he's going to be playing across the seas. So connection, obviously playing a factor there. But I think Radius did phenomenal in the draft. They got a great objective player in Spacely. They have their search and destroy expert in Nex. And then they have their statue AR player on Flawless. They're able to replace any player who might miss a match. I think Radius, they definitely get a solid B+ here.
Solid B+. You know, if Jerd can play on North American soil at any point in time, could easily become an A draft. Of course, this is the team that had the most picks out of any of the 12. They only started with 2 official players on the roster. They had 6 picks. Nice job across the board from what I've seen. And what's interesting to note, already we saw Spacely play instead of Saint in this weekend's 2K. We'll find out more about that squad as the season progresses. But guys, first we got a quick commercial break. Revan, real quick to recap. Justice, Modi, Think 2, Bumzo, and Assassin. You said that was a B+ in your eyes? B-?
Around a B-.
Elevate?
Something around there.
Miyagi,
Elevate,
Pluto,
they
Jumping
definitely get
Slasher?
an A.
They got an A.
A to A+.
Rise Nation picking up TJ, Attach, Cosmo, Accuracy, and Shills.
B+ just because they have TJ Holly, the kid's a beast.
And Optic Nation going and grabbing Fizz in that first round, but no Respawn Slayers.
Yeah, I'll give him a B+, I believe.
And Decimate and the boys for Denial. You said you were really worried about the respawns
C+.
here. And Radius Gaming, Slack Tunnel, Spacely Next, and Flawless Jerd.
B+, they have a pretty good sub lineup to choose from, but if Jerd could play, that could easily go to an A, as you said.
So far out of all the teams, so it's Elevate on top?
Let me look through real quick. Elevate on top. Yeah, I think Elevate has the best sub lineup to choose from. So we'll give them the best out of the teams we covered so far.
All right, guys, 6 more teams after the commercial break. Stay tuned for more draft grades from Revan live on the ESR.